Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, today we are going to have a look at a new distro. This is based on Fedora called a risiOS, and I have Pizza Loving Nerd here, who is the developer of this distro. You go check out his channel at Pizza Loving Nerd. How's it going, Pizza?
Pretty good.
All right. Am I pronouncing it right? Risi? Is that right?
It's pronounced risi. I couldn't come up with a name, so I went into Google Translate and I just typed random words until I got a word I could pronounce. So
Okay.
Risi is Albanian for innovative.
Okay, it's Albanian for innovative. Very cool. Awesome. Very nice. So we'll go ahead and first we'll jump over and look at the website. I did think the wallpaper was a little chaotic. I can say that, but it's compelling. It's just a little busy. But that being said, it is neat. I actually think I assembled a puzzle that looked just like this at one point in time, minus the logo. Now, is that a pizza slice in the logo? I got to know.
No.
Oh, okay. Bummer. All right. I could dream, right? We should redo that logo with a pizza slice in it. So this is ready for the web, so you put a lot into progressive web apps and things like that, you say in here. And you also mentioned that you have ways to prevent a site from being redirected. Can you talk about how that goes?
So we currently have this thing where if you use a web app, because one of the features that puts us over Linux Mint's progressive web app integration is we have a store for web apps. So you can go in and it lists out a bunch of web apps in different categories and you quickly add them. So it's an easy way to set up something like if Microsoft Office is on there, for example. So if you're like required to use Microsoft Office online, you could just go into the web app store and select all of the Office web apps.
Okay.
And however, the issue with that is I was on the Peppermint OS team very briefly, and I presented the idea of the store to them, and they told me that there are inherent security risks with that in case the website gets hacked or domain sniped. And so I kept that in mind when I was designing that in risiOS. So I added this thing where it first goes to a GitHub repo and basically checks with like a list that we have to make sure the website's still safe. And that way, if a web app on our store happens to get hacked or domain sniped, or even we can warn people if there's a data breach or something, we can go in there and make sure that the website, if it gets hacked, it blocks you from accessing the website. If it has a data breach, it gives you a warning, stuff like
So,
that.
so is that a ping that happens every time you open the web app?
Yeah, but it doesn't collect any of data or anything. We have the code for it on GitHub,
Okay.
and we also are not going to be using it for any political reasons. I don't want to have it end up as something where people are going to censor stuff.
Okay.
And
Um,
so
and and
I'm
can I install something that is not in that store list?
yes, you can. And
Okay.
also, if you like when you add an app from the store, it adds like the redirect link as the URL for the web app. So you can also just remove the redirect part too. But
Okay.
the idea is just to add a little bit of extra security just in case, because it's a web app, someone can just go in and change the website code to do something bad. So it's just a way, like with a package, you can audit the package code and everything, but you can't do that with a web app. So that's just an extra security measure just in case.
No, good. Yeah, that's a really good idea. That's awesome. Next, we have the welcome here. We have the Risi welcome, which will have it'll have a few different things. Now, these are the steps that if you have looked around what to do on Fedora, and there are people have like 29 things to do after you install Fedora. It's like, are you kidding me? Well, this thing actually walks you through all of those, which is kind of cool. I don't know about all 29, but we'll look at this more closely. So maybe we'll comment on it when we actually go into the distro itself. But basically, if you want to set up audio stuff, you want to set up video recording. I like the Firefox hardening. I want to know a little bit more about what's going on there. But it went online, it installed Firefox, and then it does some hardening stuff. We'll talk about that. We have the tweaks. I don't actually think I looked at the tweaks yet. I looked at the other stuff, but I did not have a look at the tweaks. So we'll have a look at those as well. It is Fedora based. So how quickly after a new version of Fedora are you going to have your new version out?
Fedora is so good with having betas and stuff. Like they have Fedora Silverblue, which is the same developer branch that Fedora developers use.
Hmm.
So in theory, I'm probably going to be able to get new versions the actual same day a new Fedora release comes out,
Oh, cool.
just based on how easy it is to develop on top of Fedora. Because they have Silverblue as an unstable branch I can test on, or Silverblue, that's a different thing. Rawhide, I mean, they have
Hmm.
Rawhide I can use as a testing branch on, and then they have the betas like a month early where I
Okay.
can double check everything.
Okay.
So
Very good.
I'm hoping I can actually get each version the same day as a Fedora version.
Very nice. Awesome. I did not look at the scripts, which is cool. So let's go ahead and talk about that when we get actually into it. So remind me when we get there. CSH. Now I know very little about the different file systems. I know we looked at Spiral this week, which has ButterFS, ext4, and a few other ones in there. So what's the advantage of ZHS?
ZSH is not a file
ZS.
system; it's a
My
shell.
apologies. That's the
Yeah,
shell. I'm sorry. I'm messing up with ZFS. I'm sorry.
you're good.
My brain has
Uh,
stopped functioning apparently.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so some of the benefits of ZSH is it's a little bit lighter than Bash, but it's also really customizable. Now, there's a lot of people, there's this like framework called Oh My ZSH, and a lot of people run that, but it's very bloated and it does stuff like auto update, like when you open your terminal. Like there's
Hmm.
been a couple of times where I've just been trying to do something using ZSH as my shell with Oh My ZSH, and then it's like, hey, we'd like to update, and then it takes like 5 seconds to update when I'm just trying to do something in my terminal. So
Hmm.
we aren't shipping Oh My ZSH, or we have a custom ZSH config. I ported over some plugins to not depend on ZSH at all, because essentially the ZSH plugins are just ZSH scripts, so they don't really need to depend on Oh My ZSH.
Hmm.
And also that makes it so I can update these plugins through the package manager. And it gives you advantages like autocomplete if there's like a command you type very frequently, or let's say you're like trialing and erroring edits on like a certain file or something.
Hmm.
It goes into your ZSH history and gives you autocomplete space, auto suggestions based on that.
Oh,
And it
nice.
also
Very good.
does things like it has Git integration. So if you're in like a Git branch, it shows on the right information about what branch you're on and what repo you're on and everything.
Hmm. That's
Um,
cool. I should look into the different scripting shells and stuff. Since I brought up the file system, what's the file system we have?
it's ButterFS, which is just Fedora's.
ButterFS.
Uh,
Okay.
I don't really have a preference between ext4 and Fedora or in ButterFS, so I
Hmm.
just stuck with ButterFS because that's Fedora default.
Sure. That works. That works. All right. And people are asking the question, of course, GNOME desktop, and yes, it is. We'll get into that. Anything else we want to cover before we actually get into it? Oh, you did put some things into CRX as well. Um,
Yeah,
uh,
I have a CRX instance running, and
okay.
it's default if you're using Chromium.
Okay.
One thing I'd like to note, I had to switch to the Chromium thing was a very last minute thing because I wanted to modify Firefox to add CRX support, and I wanted to have a custom new tab page. Well,
Hmm.
apparently, if you want to modify Firefox, you're not allowed to use the Mozilla trademarks unless you get permission first. And I didn't realize that before I was going to release. So at the very last minute, I had to switch over to Chromium instead of Firefox,
Hmm.
and it kind of worked out because Chromium works specifically better for the progressive web apps, which is one of the main features, because Firefox has a lot of bugs with the integration because it's kind of
Hmm.
a weird hack you have to do to get it working.
Sure.
Um, so that's basically the two reasons why Chromium is pre-installed instead of Firefox. But for those who are using Firefox, we have that hardened Firefox script. So the idea is if you want to be a little bit more privacy conscious, instead of using Chromium, you can install Firefox kind of as an alternative browser and then just harden it in
Hmm.
the tinfoil hat mode.
Yeah, I did like the tinfoil hat mode. That was definitely cool.
that was actually inspired by this channel. So
Very nice. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and boot this guy up here. So let's jump on over to our screen. This is kind of the boot up. Of course, you put all the nice logos in there, so it doesn't look like just as a separate customized thing. It really does look good. You put a lot into theming it all out and just going that extra mile with the small things in here. So of course, here's our gnome, and I had it keep the welcome on. Of course, you can turn it off up here. And so this guy here is the big beta. All right, there you go. So first steps. These are some of those things that you might do when you install Fedora. So we have proprietary NVIDIA drivers if you are using it. I'm not using NVIDIA intentionally, so you don't do that. RPM Fusion and proprietary codex. This is one of those early first steps that you might do. Now, all these guys, if I remember, do they launch just a term? Okay, they launch a script like this guy here. And so the one thing I noticed, it didn't tell me exactly as much what it was going to do, at least. So here's the tainted codex. What are the tainted ones?
Just stuff that might not be legal depending on which country you are. They're
Okay.
open source and everything, but they have like varying legal status depending on the countries. Kind of like lib, I think it's lib DVD, something like that, where it has to bypass DVD encryption, for example, and in some countries that's illegal.
Mm-hmm. We're not talking about any specific countries, of course, but you know.
Yeah.
And then clicking
I
next.
actually don't know what countries it's legal in, to be honest.
Well, it's the fun debate in the United States. Is it legal or is it not to run your own? And the fact of the matter is, there's a clause in the DMCA that would suggest it may be, but it is something that has never ever been tested in court. And so we don't know, because in general, courts are very friendly about, if you own a physical copy of something, you are allowed to make a digital copy of that same thing for your own personal use. Now, lending that to somebody else and them making a copy and giving it back to you, that would certainly run afoul of the law. Renting a DVD from a library would certainly run afoul of the law. But it raises these questions like, is it legal or is it not in that instance? And so we don't know, and we won't know until it's tested, but, you know, never underestimate the government's ability to put someone away for something that they want to, you know? So you never know who wants to test it. Anyway, we're letting the script go. So it's installing multimedia codecs, and it's going to install RPM Fusion and a few other things there. We do have FlatHub. So FlatHub is not set up by default then?
Yeah, I wanted to give because Fedora pre-installs Flatpak with its own repo, and the Flatpaks they use are actually based on the RPMs from their own repo. And to me, it doesn't really make sense in a desktop setting unless you're on like Silverblue or something, which risiOS is not. And so I got rid of Fedora's default repo that has a bunch of random packages that are already in the package manager anyway at the same version and everything. It was just a little bit unnecessary to have all that pre-installed. And on top of that, some people don't really want FlatHub on their system, so I made it an optional thing, but it is highly recommended to install just because of the amount of software on it.
Okay, good. And then, of course, the install apps, I assume this just launches the GNOME software store, right?
Yeah, I don't really like GNOME software at all, and I've actually been working on for quite a while a full custom software center that should be either in the next release or the release after that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of GNOME software myself. It just works well. I mean, that's the best I can say.
It barely works well, in my opinion. Like, Fedora is the only distro that it actually kind of works on for me. But
well, to rephrase, it's one you can rely on if there's no other option for your distro. How's that?
Yeah. And then also in the new software center, that's currently a separate thing. I'd like to integrate that into the existing software center. And I also have the idea, if Steam or something has an API, it'd be cool where if Steam is installed, it would show up Steam games and everything. So that way all of your Linux apps are in one place and you don't have to go to like 3 different stores, whether it's the web app store, FlatHub, GNOME software. Steam.
We still there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's sounds like it vanished. All right. So the install web apps. I did not look at the. I did not look at the store. Let's go ahead and hit the install web apps. So this is just our listings, so you can just add any of the web apps. Of course, we've talked about this in the past. You click it, enter the website, the name of it, enter the website, and then you can pick your icon. I assume you can do the favicon for the site as well.
Yep. And also,
Okay.
if you're doing it from the store, it automatically adds the favicon.
Okay.
There's actually a few icons that we edited to make it like fit better on a desktop.
Okay. And then let's put the store button. So just radio, no bloat. All right. We have JS Pen. So those are featured. Here's audio, accessories. So there's a lot of different things in here that are pre-built. Are these going to be based on? Are these going to be things? Okay, here's a question for you. Peacock. It was on my list. Somebody asked me, how do you get Peacock to work in Linux? I did not figure it'd be a problem. If you tested Peacock, do you know if it works?
I haven't tested Peacock because I don't have an account, but I heard from someone else it works. That's why it's on there.
Okay. So I don't know. Maybe I'll look at it. I don't have an account for it either, obviously.
But I could be wrong. So
yeah,
that's an example of where the redirect thing would work, because now if I find out it doesn't work, or if also like a website like Netflix just removed Linux support, I could add a warning to say why it's not working.
Okay. That's a good idea. I ran the hardened Firefox script, so if I can remember how to use GNOME, of course. Go ahead, boot up Firefox there. I do like GNOME. It's like after you get used to it, it's good. It's still not my favorite. All right, so here we have. I've run the script previously when I first installed it and poked around here. And so talk to us about what has been hardened as far as hardening. And I think I picked the tinfoil hat option.
So you can view the scripts if you want. It modifies the user.js file with more privacy friendly options, and in the tinfoil hat mode, it also does things like disable WebGL and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, the tinfoil hat mode probably breaks a lot of websites. So I think in the script, I recommend people to have a second browser installed if you're running that.
Yes, it does say that.
But it does. I think the convenient one too makes HTTPS mandatory. The tinfoil hat one does things like block WebG the user.js. But yeah, they're viewable on GitHub, and also just since it's installed on your system, you can see them in user share. I think risi welcome, and then scripts.
Yeah, it looks like I may not have done the tinfoil hat option. I'm just noticing some things that are a little bit different than what you were mentioning here. So I must not have used that one. So I just can't remember exactly which one I used when I put it up.
Yeah, the default is the convenient option, and that one is supposed to be where if you want to just generally browse and have privacy-friendly settings that are good enough, like basically Firefox as hardened as possible without the possibility of the website breaking. That's what the convenient option is.
Yeah, I might have done fortified. I just can't remember. So of course, as Firefox was not installed on the system, so that will install Firefox and then do all of the changes to it. Then we have a quick setup. This was a cool option in that you can go in and click one of these, and depending on how you're using your system. And this was a really good tool to debloat the system. So I didn't have a lot of stuff on it out of the box, but now if I'm mainly using it for gaming or audio production, you can go ahead and just click on these, and it's going to give you information. It tells you if admin is required. Of course, you're installing things. It will give you the information that it's using, and then you have toggle switches here. What things do you want to install? This is a really, really awesome system. for a person that really knows what they're looking for to go in and just easily choose which softwares to install out of the box. So that was a cool tool as well. Anything else we want to look at in the welcome screen?
I think you covered everything.
All right, very good. There was let's pull up this. I did not look at the tweaks. So here's the options for the tweaks. So we have application theme for GTK. Icon themes there. And I assume if you installed extra icons, they would appear in your drop-down list as well? Or
Yeah, it's the same as what GNOME tweaks have.
Okay. So here's your fonts. Here's extensions. Okay, so you can disable all extensions, and then there's a series of extensions here. Okay, so this installs Brave browser, installs Google Chrome, installs Edge, Vivaldi, and Opera. Should this maybe? Are you planning on adding more scripts to it other than just web browsers, or?
Yeah, I just put web browsers on there because that's something that like a first thing. And it's also, this is still a beta, so this is also supposed to be just a way to demo it right now until I have the time to add more.
Okay, good.
Also, if you go into experiments, you need to run DNF upgrade to have this feature because I just added this like a few days ago.
Oh, okay.
But experiments is going to be the testing ground for experimental features because I intend on like actually adding like a bunch of features that no other distro has, and this will be my testing ground for them. So you can go into this experiments tab and enable new features that are still being tested. And so right now, you can, if you DNF update or DNF upgrade, you enable the development version of Busy Tweaks, which adds libid-weta accent color support. And soon I'm going to add even more theming options for libid-weta. So right now you have to right now if you want to theme libid-weta, because libid-weta is that like GNOME library that a lot of their apps are using, that like prevents theming and everything. So on other distros you have to edit this GDK. I think it's called the home directory.config/GDK 4.0/GDK.CSS. You have to edit that with all your options. So I can swap the CSS files through the tweak tool and edit different colors and stuff. There's like a dialog window where you can set different options for the colors, and you could basically fully recolor libid-weta to personalize it more.
Of course, every bit of the data that's being used for updating the system is like Firefox. It's like half of the data I need to download here. I'm on limited bandwidth, so I have to be careful what I update for tests especially, but we'll go ahead and run that. All right. While we're waiting for that, we'll come back to the experiments after that is done with an upgrade. Anything else specifically we should have a look at?
Right now there is a bug where I haven't fixed it yet, but there's this like directory that you need to create. Otherwise it doesn't open because it tries to edit a file on a non-existent directory. So I'll send you the make kdar command in the chat in a second. My computer just froze.
All right. So another thing to point out here, he's using OnlyOffice instead of using LibreOffice, which is a departure from a lot of distros. I know OnlyOffice is gaining a lot of notoriety for people that want to maintain a lot of the look and the feel of Microsoft Office with compatibility. It still just doesn't work well for me as an author, but it is certainly good to see more options coming in with this as a tool instead of LibreOffice, just so that we know there's more options out there. And who knows, maybe there will be a day when I can actually write and format books on OnlyOffice, but as of now I can't, unfortunately. But if you are looking for something with a Microsoft Office type feel and allegedly more compatibility, I really can't confirm that or whatever else. But on the offices, it is a good, cool, compelling option, and it's cool to see more distros coming out with that.
So yeah, so now if you go to experiments, you can enable the risi tweaks, which adds the libadwaita theming support. Right now it's just accent colors, but I'm gonna push an update either tonight or tomorrow night to the development version that adds more options for theming libadwaita.
Okay. So go ahead and run that.
Close risi tweaks and reopen it. It replaces.
Okay. So you got to run the experiments. Okay, there you go. So there's modern accent theming. That's cool. All right. So you can do that. And all right. Yeah, that's cool. So close that. Let's go ahead and
then also another feature of the risi scripts in GNOME tweaks, and the reason that there's a dedicated tab for GNOME tweaks instead of just having all the browsers inside the welcome screen, is that if you install something through it, it gives you options to be able to update it through risi tweaks for something that isn't through a package. Like if you needed to build something from source, for example, you can update it through risi tweaks, and then you can also remove it too. The experiments, if you go back to the experiments tab, there should be a manage app button for risi next, which allows you to remove it.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
So there's some integration there.
All right. Very good. Well, stream hiccup aside, I think we're sort of back on track. So this has been a really cool distro to have a look at. So yeah, a lot of work went into it. So I have the website down here linked in the description of the video, so you can go ahead and have a look at it yourself if you'd like to download it. Anything else you want to say about this one before you close this video up?
Yep, two things. One's just a minor technical thing. If you install RPM Fusion, it swaps out stock Chromium for Chromium Free World, which adds some extra codecs and stuff and makes websites work better. And DRM too for Netflix and stuff. But basically, when I was making risiOS, there's a lot of distros right now, and I feel like this is a major problem where it's basically just a different distro, usually Ubuntu or Arch with a different theme on top of it. So I was trying to avoid risiOS being that. So I put a lot of time into adding extra differentiators to give you a reason to run risiOS instead of Fedora, for example. And so I plan on continuing that, and I'd like to innovate in the Linux world with this distro and not just sit there and spin up, like maybe have different pre-installed apps and that's it, for example, in a theme and call it my own thing. I want to make it where people are genuinely excited for the next release of risiOS.
Very good. So yeah, excellent distribution. If you are looking to use Fedora, this just makes a lot of the tools very nice. There is a donate/shop button over there on the store. So if you like this, you can go ahead and help support the distribution. And there's a monthly donation. There's a custom donation option there as well. So you can go ahead and have a look at those.
I'm working on adding shirts too.
Oh, you're going to be adding shirts. Awesome. Very cool. So there you go. So you can help support over there. Of course, you can follow along on the channel at Pizza Loving Nerd as well. So well, thanks for coming along, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.